Welcome to the Ecom Logistics Podcast, your go-to for e-commerce logistics insights, trends, successes, and lessons from the leaders and innovators in our space. So, Nicole, I'd love to change gears a little bit and hear about your journey for fundraising. Taking a look at where you and Jonathan are now, everything looks very rosy and amazing, but I also know that it wasn't the easiest path to get here. Can you walk us through what was fundraising like? What were some lessons you learned?
So I think it's the timing we went out was a very difficult time in the market because it was in the midst of all the quick commerce companies dying. And so as soon as investors heard the word delivery, they'd just be like, not interested, don't have the mandate, can't touch anything that has to do with delivery. And that was really hard bias for us to overcome. And so we thought that just thanks to our experience from Stewart, people would be able to take the leap of faith and start us off, but that was just not the reality. So we heard hundreds of no's before being able to get our first yes. And so we decided to bootstrap as soon as we saw what the situation was. So we did a friends and family round first, and angels, and that got us off the ground. That got us our first customers, showcasing that we could build a pipeline of interest, getting the first parcel through the network, and that then queued us up for having a successful seed round. And in that seed round, it was great to see that Prologis and Project A, who were part of that seed round, were ultimately part of the industry. They really understood the intricacies of our model. And that's what set them apart as investors, because they were able to go deep. Because if you stop on the surface, we've seen a lot of tombstones in this market. So if you just stay on the surface, you won't really grasp. We're really happy that we got that level of interest from investors to be able to go that deep. And that then ultimately set us up for where we are today, where we successfully closed our Series A. We did a $35 million Series A, so we're super excited to walk towards our B soon.
Does that B include eventually a roadmap that shows how you enter the North American market?
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
we definitely need that. Nikki, I'd love if there are any lessons you might be able to share with entrepreneurs that might be going through a similar journey. What helped you get over that hump after you did that angel round? What were some of the guiding principles? How did you show the proof of how Relay was doing well, how this was worth investing in that actually got you the seed round?
I think at that point, it's really all about the team and the customers that you can win. Because at the end of the day, when you're so early stage, investors really need to buy into the team. And building a strong team that can really help achieve the goals that you set out is a strong proof point, because at that stage, you're nobody. So if you're nobody and you're able to attract really strong talent, that's a really good signal for any investor. And then on top of that, closing your big accounts, which was the opposite of what everybody does. Everybody goes SMEs first, independent first, and we went really enterprise level first. It really helped them understand how much retailers really wanted this and how much they're willing to help grow the next carrier of the future to help themselves in the years to come. So I'd say those are the two things that really matter in the early days. And don't be afraid to bootstrap.
I think it also makes you a lot more financially prudent, right? When you have to bootstrap, there's a lot of unnecessary spending that just doesn't happen, and you focus on the most important things. The 2 points that you mentioned about, one, going after sharks, which is like the big companies. Usually people go after smaller ones and try to get some wins under their belt, and once they're ready, then they try to go after the big ones. I love that you knew who your main target market was, and you just went after them and closed those accounts, because at the end of the day, there's a natural fit for both of you. And it also shows investors that Nicole and Jonathan can get these huge companies, then the smaller ones will be a lot easier for them to win anyways.
Exactly.
Were some of those lessons or even the sales finesse that you learned from your time at Stewart together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being in front of all these customers and having known a lot of them from industry for so many years was so important to really understand what would make them buy.
Yeah.
because ultimately what I was selling was such a different product that I was trying to really understand, if you start and you're a nobody, what would make you buy?
Right. Makes sense. And what was the selling space? It was really difficult to fundraise, but what about customers? Were they putting their hands up and saying, sign me up because there's nobody else existing? Or was it a difficult time as well?
So not really from a customer perspective, because who we're talking to, supply chain directors, heads of e-commerce, heads of logistics, these guys are super well versed with any model that they've seen. So quite frankly, when they saw our model, they were quite blown away. The one thing that really helped us, which I thought actually would have been really difficult to get around in the early days, would have been, how do we get them comfortable with the pit stop? Because ultimately, you're transiting their products in something that's not really common in the market, in the outbound world. So two things really help there. One, China's powering 120 billion parcels like that. Two, you're already doing your returns like that. So why can't we do outbound? Yeah. So I think that really helped. And I was surprised by how little resistance there was on questioning the pit stop.
Yeah, as a supply chain leader in an organization, I would probably go with, okay, that sounds new, but let's do a pilot. But do I really care as long as the package gets where it needs to get at the cost that it needs to get with the service level that it needs to maintain? If the pilot says, cool, let's go.
That's exactly how we sold it. I said, just give me the opportunity to prove to you that we built a superior service at a cost-efficient rate.
Thanks for listening to the Ecom Logistics Podcast. If this episode brought you value, share it with your network and leave us a review. It really helps others discover the show and join in these conversations. And if your team is planning an event in 2025, consider partnering with Ecom Logistics Podcast. We're always looking for meaningful opportunities to elevate conversations shaping logistics and e-commerce. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep leading the way forward.